Welcome to hello everybody. Welcome to DevCami number 12 square. We had a guest today. Just kidding. So Chilang is back.
Hi.
So my name is Raymond, by the way.
I am Tristan.
Chi Leong.
Yes. Just in case everybody forget how we look like.
Let me change the title a bit.
Yes.
This is 12 square.
Yes. Episode 12 square. So what's happening for the past few days, months? What last time we see you?
2 months ago.
Yeah.
1 month is because okay. Doesn't matter. Just remove
Yeah.
it.
So I know you've been busy working.
Yeah, it's something we can talk about
Yeah.
later.
Yes. So let's start with events. We miss the Ruby Tuesday, and we the next event.
The Ruby
Not
Tuesday
really,
is only
because-
happening this coming Tuesday.
Yeah,
okay.
because it's not a new month on Tuesday.
Right.
It's still 31st on Tuesday.
So it'll be next week. There's Ruby Tuesday. Then September 18. Okay, there's a conflict. So the next big event is actually PyCon Malaysia, happening online again. I got ticket, but it's because I got favors and all that. So I won't be giving talk, but I'll be joining. So you want the detail, come to DevCami calendar, and I need to. Why the hell they open up here? Let me change here. So yep, Ruby Tuesday is on 7. Then we have Tech Up events on Saturday. Then we have PyCon Malaysia. So on the event, the link is the ticket page is here. It's 20 ringgit. So if you're interested, you should go. They're still working on the website. More detail coming soon. So that's the event. Anything you want to know about the events and all that? No.
No, nothing much.
Okay. I know the website on PyCon is saying it's Google, but no, it's actually this time is someone else. It's a local. Lao Shahan, just in case you know, he's the one that built a COVID dashboard, pretty well known reasonably. So yeah. So let's talk Buzz Corner. So I'm going to. There's quite a number of news. So this time I filter off the security news. There's a few it keep happening. I filter off the acquisition news. Those keep happening. It's a big number though. I mean, Intuit is being bought. They bought one of the company. I forget the name. So let's start with this one. Google actually had a website about SRE, software reliability engineering. So it's about talking about the role.
I think it's probably a new site. There's a SIE from them previously, right?
Yes, this is the book one actually. This is
Okay.
tied to the book one.
So this is tied to the cloud.
Yeah, correct. So this one they actually talk about what's the role is about and what's the practice is about in a more general sense. So this is more targeted to the business owners and the C levels. So it's not for people like us that have to implement the process. It's a start. So from here you will go to the best practice site, which will have all the thing lah. So nowadays it's not called sysadmin anymore. It's called site reliability.
That's a different thing, right?
It's very different actually, and it's also very
SIE actually involve coding as well.
correct. So
you need to have an insight inside the code.
correct. Whereas a lot of us, we tend to, I know organization that treat, often ops is the last thing on some of the companies. As a result, it's a bit of a mess. It's a bit of a mess. So you won't do like this driver IO scheduling. Never happen for most of us. So doesn't mean it's not important, because when it does happen, strange thing happens. So yeah, this is most so the site that we link is mostly for your boss mostly, but it do have some beginning. It do some pointers for you to get started. They started to look at what Google Cloud do provide toward that goal. So anything to add on this?
No. So
Cool.
Tristan went up to try out.
Okay.
No, Tristan actually got a work call.
Okay. So the next thing is
start
actually
first.
Warp for Linux.
What is
I
Warp?
installed it. Warp is actually it's a tunnel. It's not just it's like VPN, but to me it's more like a lightweight tunnel.
Yeah,
to
I think in
Cloudflare.
short it is like the VPN client for previously it was on mobile, right?
Yeah,
and also
correct.
on Windows and Mac, right?
Yeah, correct. Now it's on Linux, and so they have their own WireGuard implementation, which is interesting. And so they do some smart routing thing. It's actually very hard to do, but yeah, there's a Linux client now. It works on Ubuntu. I install it, it works. Then the command line works, and it's a matter of connect and disconnect. Maybe I should show it on the desktop later. I just set it up.
No, not gonna use it because you're gonna be disconnected, I think.
Yeah, correct. So also it can work as a proxy. So you can actually have a separate thing for testing and whatnot. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. This is interesting to me. So what this does is you can pull the maps from OpenStreetMap, then apply themes. So for example, it's a bit heavy toward Matplotlib, but the end result is you can pull a map, then you add the themes that you want. For example, building, what type of thing you want to pull from, what layer do you want to pull from OpenStreetMap. Then you assign it to a category, a reference. Then from the reference, you can actually just set up your color and whatnot. It's pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, be nice though.
Yeah.
There is some fair use with OpenStreetMap. So,
yeah, correct.
Because
but look at it happens because OpenStreetMap is the alternative to Google, and unfortunately, it's a common resource. Just because it's a common resource doesn't mean you can spam.
Just because they have they let you use it.
Yep. Maybe I will do something for KL one day. It's interesting. Next one, Play Console. I did not get it. I was planning to get it, but then my financial situation is not as great. So, can I get out? I can't get out.
I think you have to reshare.
No. They open up a new tab. So this is actually a GUI. From what I understand, is a GUI-based IDE. So it's one of those nowadays we can design games using drag and drop with graphic. So this is what it is. So you can, even though it looks like one of those LCD, but look at the tiles.
I signed up for the newsletter, but by Teenage Engineering, right?
No, Playdead is by another company actually.
Yeah, but I follow it because it was I think it's sort of like collaboration with Teenage Engineering with.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, in fact, there's multiple of these. Even even the Nintendo Game Boy homebrew nowadays had a GUI-based designer for you to make games. So yeah, I think this is interesting. Make me regret for not getting Playdate. Maybe when it's more available, I might actually get one.
Yeah, it's not gonna be knowing
Yeah.
the trend of teenage engineering.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, normally their
It's true.
stuff will sell out pretty quickly.
Correct.
Hardly restock everything.
So they have a very interesting scripting language. So yeah, one day I will show what I found about.
They're probably gonna have a new version. I don't know, a better
Yeah.
version.
Correct. So and the last one is Gleam. It's a source code search engine slash what? So you can actually ask for code. So you can actually walk through. Query.
So it's like Elasticsearch alternative, but using GraphQL.
Correct. So this one is, but it's for source code. From what I understand, this is for source code.
Oh, okay.
So I try to find some good demo. That they don't have good demo here. So you can search for your annotation. Your variables and whatnot. I think it's interesting. I mean, just not tools. So it's also anyway. This actually linked to our main page. So yeah, check it out. So with that said, I think I'm done, but I'm going to unfortunately switch again. Actually, you know what? I'm just open up a new tab. I'm just going to open a new tab, then I'm going to share my screen on that later. So what do you know about building voice assistant?
I know nothing.
Okay, so voice assistant actually had multiple components.
No, but my first question is gonna ask, what is it called? How do you pronounce the name?
I don't know. Short answer is I don't know how they pronounce it. It's not on the documentation actually. It's not on the documentation, which is actually a bit sucks. But
no, they actually put it there how to pronounce.
Really?
By shading.
Okay.
I don't know how to read the, what do you call it? The
IPA.
IPA, yeah. They put it there. So if you Google it, you can find it. I don't know how to read it.
Yeah, let me go into the other channel. Whereas it's ResP. It's ResP. Yep. So actually, can anybody actually see my tab, or you need to be bigger?
Yeah, it's pretty small though, like half the height.
Okay, it's not good. Okay, let me see if I can add.
It's like half the height.
Better?
No, it's not because of it's small because of that. It's the screen is half the height.
Okay. That sucks.
But it's fine, I think.
Yeah.
Probably you make your another screen full screen.
Okay. Let me. Wait a moment.
What do we have?
I turn on my PC. I turn on my PC. Because I need to show something actually. You know what? I'm going to use my PC to share instead. Let me add myself. Share screen. Share. You know what? I'm going to share entire screen instead. Then I'm going to show better. Worse.
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, it's the same type of screen actually. Even though I have two different setup. So what happened is, let's start with the setting. It's easier to talk when it comes to setting. So a voice a voice assistant system contains multiple things. The first one is when you start talking to your voice assistant through a microphone and all that, the first thing they're going to talk is actually your speech to text, the speech to text system. So, so usually speech to text system would be something running on deep learning nowadays. It used to be a very complicated model using Markov models, which essentially you take a slice of sound and try to match the nearest sound. So one of the best example is actually called Dragon Speech. It is something from the 90s to late 90s. Nowadays you have more options now and also open source. Dragon Speech is proprietary those days. So this is your first component. So RESP have multiple. You have Deep Speech from Mozilla, Kaldee, Pocket Springs, then ROS. Remote HTTP, all these are actually services that made available over remote different services. For example, remote HTTP, if it's a cloud service, it's potentially possible to use Google's, but it also potentially be very expensive, which is why they don't use that by default. In fact, actually, one of the reasons they don't do that is because they'll try to, one of the selling point is they try to make it local. So not sync to the cloud. You can also use local command. So there is, if you don't have all these here, or you can use Hermes, which is actually alternative, which is actually an enhancement to MQTT, but I'll come to that later. So first you have a speech to text system. Once you have that, then you have a wake word system. Wake word system is actually, they will listen to the microphone and activate when a certain word is said. So in this one, we use the word, the one that we use is called Porcupine. It's actually Apache license, so it's not proprietary, but the business license is a bit restrictive. So if you had some special wake word, then there's a special wake word, one of the big, then you can only use it on one machine. I don't think I can enforce it anyway. And you can only store it for 30 days. But you can retrain it. You can constantly retrain it. Also, to make it for customized code, you need to use the dashboard. But Pico Voice had very good support, so it potentially possible to use Porcupine on the Raspberry Pi. In fact, it's designed to use for the Raspberry Pi. They actually have it for I think for Porcupine, the regular system, they only use it for Raspberry Pi or anything bigger. I think that the one they use for the Raspberry Arduino Nano BL-E33, that is another demo. They have another product, but Wake is one of these, and the one they provide is Porcupine. So once and the reason why you have Wake is because you want to trigger, you do not want the machine talk to you all the time. It's actually for user interface, it's just easier for you to ask them, then they respond to you. The catch is this alone doesn't do a lot of stuff because it doesn't sound like a conversation, because when we say something, you will say like, hey Sui Ming, then hey Sui Ming, you don't repeat the big word for natural conversation. But it's a start. You use that to start something that behind the scene, you will do more stuff. Then the next part of the voice assistant system. Once you have that, then you have speech to text. Speech to text already there. Big word. Then you have intent recognition. Intent recognition here means I will show you the script later.
Does it do context?
Yes,
at least memory of a few previous.
Yes,
queries.
I'm going to show you the sentence right now. We call it intent. So for example, when I say what time is it? So for example, I say computer, what time is it? What time is it?
It is now 22:20.
So if you can see the word, it's actually what time is it, and it will match get time. And also because so the intent system also do things like matching variables. So matching variables, if you can see it, can you actually see it, or you want me to
Yeah,
make
I
it
can
big?
see it, but you can. I think it's better if you make it larger.
Better?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay, so the intent system also can do things like matching variables, like turn on the living room lamp on or off. Then you
So
just
don't
match
make
it to
me
the
coffee.
sentence. Yeah, you can do that. In fact, one of the demo by I saw a demo by Sys Studio that actually used Raspberry Pi running Raspi to actually power the coffee machine. So you will talk to it make me an espresso, then that will trigger the espresso automation component. So that's what we mean by an intent system. So yeah, it's context, but we call it, here they call it intent lah. So once you have the intent I showed you just now, then you do your thing. Then after that, they need to respond. So often what they have is they produce a text, then they will turn it into a speech. So this is called a TTS system. There's multiple famous one. For example, you have Pico TTS, Mary TTS. I will show Mary TTS later. Larynx, the Open TTS. It's not as famous as like Pocket Sphinx and whatnot. Pocket Sphinx is a speech to text. Text to speech is often very different tasks. So when you have a speech, then of course you need to play the audio and all that. So that's how they do this is essentially they produce a WAV file. So instead of having the TTS system to talk directly to Elsa or whatever sound system you use, but Raspberry only works on Linux, so it's often pulse audio. So instead of letting it play about pulse audio, it will produce a WAV file. Then the WAV file will be sent to AirPlay, audio playing. Then it will produce an audio, it will return to you. But one extra thing, one thing that modern voice assistant do is they have a thing called dialogue management. So Raspberry
Dialogues as in it's the one that I mentioned just now, right? The like just when you talk about, let's say when you talk about coffee,
yes.
then the next few sentences will be related to that.
Correct. So let me search here. Okay, usage. But this thing, so they had various options for it. So MQTT snips, do the Hermes protocol. Because conversation is actually part of dialogue management is actually something that only available for MQTT, the MQTT API. Even though it's actually on Snips, but I will give you the history of Raspberry later, a bit of history that I know of. But this only works for MQTT. So I go back a bit. So this is just one step, or this is just what all voice assistant provide, right? They provide speech to text, big word detection, intent recognition, then text to speech. Then the modern one will provide dialogue management. Then in between, we will have all the supporting things like audio playing and audio recording. So audio recording is because once you have a big word, once they hear the big word, then they record a snippet of the sound. then they will do the processing. But in Raspberry, they also do something extra. So the extra thing here is MQTT. So MQTT is actually a type of MQ protocol designed for embedded devices. It's actually designed before. The so-called Internet of Things buzzword come out. So originally, it's actually used on ZigBee protocol. And it's designed for very small devices that exist before Arduinos and whatnot. So what the company behind Raspberry does is they use the MQTT protocol and they use it to transmit sound over. I try to find a good API for it.
How is that encoded in MQTT?
In short, binary. So interestingly, it's actually supported, but how it works is actually binary. I try to find the key for it. Oh man, this is why I hate this proprietary protocol.
What proprietary? Which one?
It's not proprietary. It's somewhat an open standard. It's open. It's definitely open. It's just that it's different.
MQTT is open, right?
MQTT open, and the extension, the Hermes extension, is also open. In short, I try to actually find the topic, find the payload. But in short, it's actually binary. So there's a MQTT can send bytes over. So what they do is they encode. What they actually do is they record a sound, which is why the sound recorder is important. They encode it as byte, put it as part of MQTT payload, then send it to a server. In this case, what I'm showing off right now on my screen is the server. So which I call it home base. It's a server. So this thing will receive the sound and do all the processing. Then once they're done, then they send the sound over. So I'm doing it on my desktop right now. You're hearing my sound on the desktop right now. So how do they send the sound over? Short answer, the server that I'm showing you right now will encode the sound in binary, send it to MQTT, send it back in. This machine will receive it and get the right field. Then we encode the binary into sound and play it as wave. So that's what it actually does. So in a way, Raspberry is actually doing something extra, which make them very different than all the commercially available voice assistant platform. Mainly, this one only works very well locally. It's not something that's easily turning into a cloud. So this only works well if you have a client set up. And currently, as of now, Raspberry only primarily used in Home Assistant. Let me see if I got Home Assistant. Let me go back to the main docs. Usage. So used in Home Assistant. Home Assistant is an open source. Again, Home Assistant platform, right? Let me get Home Assistant. Let me copy this. Let me find it. Home Assistant. La 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 la. So it can serve as a plugin for Home Assistant for you to automate your house. So you can, and they got quite a number of supported hardware actually. So for example, you can use this to control your set up different action to control your light switch. So when you reach home, you can turn on your light at certain time, turn on something, for example. So at current state, if something turns to here, do something. So Home Assistant is an open source platform for you to do that. It's commonly used on Raspberry Pi and all that. This is why people actually have Internet of Things devices lah. Even though it's scary at times, but it's interesting. So you use this on Home Assistant has a plugin for Raspberry, and you can use Raspberry to actually do your voice use your voice to control your light bulb, your door, and etc. Then, in fact, that's the biggest usage that I know of. Almost because this thing is only works well locally, right? And they don't. So this thing are infrastructure. It's not something that you can put on the public. Once you put public, then you need to make sure. Your security and entity are all secured properly. So which is honestly a nightmare lah. I mean, we can do it by using tunnels and whatever, but that's one thing lah. Here's another thing. Raspberry by default doesn't handle intent. Wait, before you go there, very important. I'm so sorry. Let me try this again. Computer. What time is it?
It is now 22:31.
Oh, okay, sorry. Computer. Open the room light. Computer. Open the room light.
Acknowledged.
So one of the things that Raspberry does is they produce JSON, and these JSON are sent to MQTT. So they encode the command and all the things that you do. Then you have the session ID. Then then they send also a value, but by default it doesn't handle the intent. The intent is handled by a Python script that I have to write myself. It's something that I had. So what this does is, you need me to turn on the increase the font size?
Yeah. I think what it does is that it just do the handling of the event, then just hand off to you but you need to have something to be there ready to handle the command.
Correct. Yeah. So which is why people use this on Home Assistant. So Home Assistant by default already can listen to MQTT, and with the plugin, then they know what is the message they should listen to. So in my case, this is a Python script. All these functions are for PAHO MQTT client. So on connect, then it subscribe to everything under intent. Then if there's no intent, then there is a thing called intent not recognized, which is interesting because it means that I can use this to play with NLP libraries. Then we connect this standard MQTT code. Then you will notice from here, I just say, I do not know what you mean. Yes, produce something. But what is really interesting here is, let's say you have a natural language system, a bit more advanced than the intent system, then you can be very smart about it. So which is why I kind of like it. I kind of like to play with it. So so every intent that I define on senseterms.ini, like get time, that translate into the intent / the name of the intent. Then I do whatever.
When you like spoke to the assistant, does it has to be word to word, or it can there are some estimation? There are some, like, let's say, yeah.
In theory, like, let's say fuzzy match.
Like let's say your command of what is the time?
Yep.
Like does it match like when you spoke what time, something like that?
Okay, so I heard somewhere that is supposed to do fuzzy matching. So meaning what day is it that should match the same thing. I did not manage to get it to work. Does that make sense? It's supposed to work, but it doesn't. In short, it doesn't work for me lah. So because it's JSON and they already unpacked for you, then you can put your intent name and do whatever you need to do. Then finally, I just have them to just say something that I asked them, for example, acknowledge the time and whatnot. So as I say, standard MQTT. Now you know my local
Oh,
password.
now I knew your password.
Yes, but it's experimental, so there's only one thing connected to MQTT. So then I just, as I said, this is really just a hack, right? This is really just a hack. I don't have a formal way to do things yet. So I don't have a quote unquote framework to do this yet. So yeah. So yesterday on Sunday, actually it's on Merdeka Day. What I do is I attempt to connect this guy. So I'm connecting the M5 is with ESP32 based controller. Then I attempt to use a servo as a mechanical switch, so that I can put it on the wall and use the hand to actually turn on the switch. Problem is I had the wrong button because I can turn on, I can turn off. So yeah, but so the experiment here, but it does work. So you use, so what you do is you can use let's go back to Foreman again. So for example, this is the light stage. So my light switch. So what you do is you just you do your thing, set your logic, then you just publish to the right devices that you have. So it's not necessarily just software. It can be another Raspberry Pi, ESP based controller that control your light switch, or let's say you do find a Home Assistant compatible power plug. I believe there's quite a few exist, so you can potentially use it to control your devices actually. So it's going to be interesting of what is potentially good, possible, but the thing is, it's a bit heavy lah. That's my opinion, because it's rely heavily on MQTT, meaning you have to debug that your MQTT works. It's not too bad, but it's a lot of moving parts that you need to get working. So the origin of Raspberry. So Raspberry is originally come from a company called Snips. Snips is a company that, again, the reason I have this is to create voice assistant. Then they got acquired by Sonos. So the technology are integrated to Sonos product. But the good thing is they release all their stuff as open source, and there is development. So it's not a dead software, believe it or not. So let's see if I can get the GitHub. They released everything is open source, and the last update is like a few months ago. So it's very active. It's
a few months ago. It's pretty old in
24 days.
Standard.
Yeah, I know. So they integrate some code from 28 days in the last month.
Sorry.
So it's pretty, as I say, it's pretty impressive. So yeah, this is so the code still exists. It's still very, very usable and very, very.
And it's open source. If you're not happy, you can try to submit a pull request. If it's not accepted, you can fork your own.
Yes. So yeah, there's a lot of project for it. I hope I can show you the setup, except I don't know how to set up. Now I know how to set that up, but I do not know how to show the setup.
Does it? Oh, that actually reminds me. Like when you show, like, give me a T. Like, does it support numerals? Like, give me 1, 2, 3, 4.
It supposedly can, but I don't have a good demo for it because this thing using a model called, damn it, it's Fuzzy Wuzzy. Was it Fuzzy Wuzzy? I know that it's a NLP based. It's support Fuzzy Wuzzy, but it had a thing called. They actually use one of those.
Tristan is back.
Yeah.
Hello. Sorry.
It's actually using one of the more famous text thing. Like, it's very general. So it's fuzzy matching with intent and all that. But I don't remember the specific algorithm. Oh yeah, one last thing. Raspberry had also it's not just one program, it's actually multiple programs.
You know, just to brief, just to bring Tristan up to speed, is that the most important thing is actually streaming was wrong in there's no official guide on how to pronounce it.
So there is. I was going to say there should be, because it's a very difficult word to pronounce, and usually they will, like, it's like GNU has a pronunciation guide.
Yeah. So
like free.
So what's the
free software is not open source pronunciation guide.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah.
So how do you pronounce it now? Sorry.
It's called Rasp. I call it Raspi now.
The IPO code.
Raspi. Yeah, Raspi.
No, it's not Pi. It's PI. Pi is I just checked. Pi is PI. Can you make it? Can you enlarge it? So
because it looks PI.
PI. So it's.
No, it's not the long bar on that top.
Yeah.
Wait.
Pi, I just checked. Like it was AI.
Yeah,
so if it's pronounced as Pi.
Yep. Installation. Okay, I can only say one thing. Docker doesn't work for me actually. Docker doesn't work for me.
Not on Raspberry Pi. I think it's just don't bother.
Yeah. It's because I put it on the desk. These things are well tested on Raspberry Pi, but not on Linux box. It's different from what I use. So for example, it's not as easy to use on my. It's easy to actually run on interestingly, on my Linux box and also WSL. But on my Linux machine, for some reason, the microphone doesn't work as well. I tried to find out why. I got it worked down, it doesn't work anymore, which is weird. But on WSL, it just works, which is also very weird. You can use a .dat file to install, but the catch is don't use .dat file. What's actually work is you have to you do custom installation.
Yeah, just do it this way. I pity the fools that try to run Docker in Raspberry.
So it's a long E, Raspi.
Yeah.
According to IPA, Raspi, not Raspi, but Raspi.
Raspi.
Yeah.
Raspi.
Do it the old Unix style.
Like what?
Just do the make install.
Yeah. CMMI.
Well, the question there is, how do you uninstall?
That's the little problem, because not my problem now, because I intend to keep it.
You might need to look at the make file whether they provide.
So
and if it doesn't provide, then you have to check where does it copy files into, and then delete them manually.
But luckily, I know where it is. I'm going to show you.
Normally, if we do a configure like the really old school way, is that we actually have a prefix also to put in the prefix, so it doesn't install to the user user directory. It's just normally we
So
just put it to that. Yeah.
so they actually installed local. So I just remove from the local directory. I just remove like rm dash dot slash. Actually, dot slash, then
Yeah.
remove the directory.
Speaking of Python environment, have you seen the latest XKCD comic? Talks about Python.
No,
Really?
but it's
Let me have
always
a look.
funny. Trust me, I know Python virtual environment is a mess right now.
You should take a look at it right now.
Yeah. You know what?
It's the hover text. The joke is on the hover text though. The Python joke.
Yeah.
I tried to train. Yeah, hover in it again. I tried to train an AI to repair my Python environment, but it kept giving up and deleting
Yeah,
itself.
I know.
I think
So
I think my app block actually blocked the
hover
tooltip.
text. Oh, that's too
Yeah.
bad.
But it's actually true in a way that.
Yeah.
So
okay, it show up.
you know how many virtual environment do I have?
I don't know.
So I have
I guess it.
I have Poetry. That is very npm style package manager. Then I have PyEnv. That is a RVM environment style.
No, PyEnv is like for Ruby is RVM.
Yeah, RVM
So
is more RVM like.
Yeah, you can choose or for Node is NVM. So it's like version manager where you can choose the version.
Yes, but
but
you can like cd to the local directory, then you can pick up the .python version file. So it's
RVM.
Yeah,
that's
so
RVM.
Then finally, then I also use the local one. And suddenly, what happened is because all Python 3 something up actually have virtual environment as part of standard library. So if I'm damn lazy, I just use dots. I just create one ./local and run it there. It's a mess.
Yeah. Sorry for derailing you. I just remembered because you showed me your virtual end.
Sivik, do you want to share? Do you want to share whatever on the Slack right now?
What is on Slack?
Han is showing something really funny. It's sort of related to AI as well, using the Google.
Oh yeah, the pixelizer, yeah.
Yeah, let's show it. It's really fun.
Let me
what is this?
I think it's based on their.
What do you call this? The AI, because
sampling.
I think it came from the
sampling.
Yeah, the super sampling by Google, and then I think
because their corpus is mainly white male.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No. The Slack chat. You share the result of.
Oh yeah. I'm going to share the result instead.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Oh, okay. Let me open.
You share the desktop so you can just
yeah, this is another application of AI, not just about voice input.
Yeah.
It's really ridiculous. Like we should show it. Like in general, yeah.
Scroll down.
Just scroll down. Just go to the latest.
At the very bottom, yeah.
So Sean actually look like that.
Yes.
I look like that.
You look like me, interestingly. Yes.
I can see the. I mean, if I probably didn't care too much about the details, I can see the resemblance. I don't know about the.
No, I think Sean is very.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very strange.
Yes, because it's actually an very old controversy. Research in the Western world is weird. They tend to be like westernized, educated. There's a term for that. It's called weird research
bias.
Yeah. It's called Western educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. So, which means that it tend to be like from the Western side of the world. It had to be educated because and the reason is the person they select is college student, and most of the more important research are done on the western side of the world, industrialized world, and they tend to be also rich because they can educate and all that. So yeah, it's called weird, and this actually spawned into the industry now. I blame Google for being white actually. Yeah. So yes, machine learning. All right, let's back to the topic.
That's a thick chin on Han.
Yeah. So which is why off topic. Off
topic. I have to mute myself.
Yeah. This is why we need to actually do our own research and all that.
Yeah, we have to.
Yes, and people need to understand that you need to throw money at this to get their result. But unfortunately, Malaysians, I know only Malaysians.
College students need to eat too, so please pick them for your psychological studies.
Correct.
I was so in my university when we were taking up psych class. Apparently, one of the requirements was to become like test subjects of the senior grad students.
Yeah.
Like you're basically helping them out. Like you have to answer their surveys so that you can be picked as part of the population, because you have to give consent, right? So it's one way of helping their researches.
Yep. So next one, Raspberry. Anything you want to know about this setting up?
Well, now that you can transform like sound waves into you can trigger it. Like, can you connect it to some kind of if this then that clone or something? Where
so answer is yes. In fact, one of the common use is to use it on Node-RED.
Okay, so these are the preferred ones, because I wanted to know what do they recommend to connect with. So I guess they have Node-RED and Has.io.
I'm gonna go a bit crazy on my question.
Yep.
Can you train it to recognize something else besides speeches like click, like this is for time. What is
time? No, it doesn't do that. In fact, unfortunately, remember the
you can go back to the olden days and do Captain Crunch.
Yeah, unfortunately,
unlock your door or something.
So Raspberry support the following language. It support Mandarin.
So you have to train it yourself,
if you use Mandarin work, but it doesn't.
No, but it's really. But these are actually based on. We still need to give it a representation, so sort of.
Correct. So and you see that Pocket Sphinx
Mandarin. Which kind of Mandarin? The the Beijing Mandarin or the Taiwanese Mandarin?
So who sent the most students to the CMU? That's the question.
But ZH means Taiwan.
Yeah, probably. So Sphinx is a project by Carnegie Mellon University, I believe. And people that go to this university tend to be Taiwanese, so likely to be more Taiwanese than China. I suspect. So, and this actually, again, representation is a real problem. So let's say you want to use it. If you just like us, English speaker, it's awesome, everything is covered. But let's say you want to turn this into, let's say, a smart fast food ordering system with voice. In Malaysia, very likely won't work.
Nobody speak. I think the challenge thing with Malaya is nobody use the standard language.
Well, English is weird too. Just that you have bigger sample size, which is why all this system using neural network actually, because gone are the days where we build text models using rules. We use text models using neural network. Then
the intent is still rules, right?
Rough rules. Yeah. So, yeah, So it's not global. It's not something that you can use to make a product for something locally to us yet, which is unfortunate, but I think it's interesting. So yeah, this Raspi, I like it. I like it. I try to find more project for it. What I do not like is it's heavy in a way that it require MQTT, and just to use this
Well,
alone, that is
MQTT is not very heavy. It's a lot.
no,
It's one of the
It's
faster,
it's
simpler
beyond protocol.
protocols.
It's beyond
Yeah.
protocol.
yeah,
So it can
but
run
also
on top of any protocol, even like on HTTP. So it
Correct.
works. Some clients they work on WebSocket because it's beyond protocol.
so
Or like
huh?
flashing lights.
Yes.
Flashing lights via MQTT. I think that's how they do some of the
Yeah.
like IoT stuff.
Correct. So I tested this on the Arduino on ESP32, so it works. I tried to use the servo as a switch now, so just in case you didn't notice, it's a wrong type of servo because I can turn on the switch, but I can't turn it off. It's harder to turn it off.
You need to do the opposite. What they call it? I forgot, because it's a servo, so it's by the direction.
Correct. Yeah. So this is 180-degree servo. So
yeah, the PWM is like you need the datasheet, but the PWM is on the other direction. Because you can do it like per increment. Like you can actually set
I can move it, but the button is not always straight. You see.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's harder to turn. Whereas something more than 180 might work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last thing what I want to talk about again. Oh yeah, another thing is heavy is because Raspi is actually a series of programs. So they got they have. Let me go to GitHub again. They have the whole set of program clone. They have all these things they clone from GitHub.
Yeah.
So maybe half of it is actually I need to run as a program.
I'm just curious. Like, is there any existing commercial application using this? Like any product?
So
that built on
Sonos
top of this technology.
Sonos bought it. So chances is at least the future.
They might be using it.
Correct. In fact, they bought it because of this and the Hermes protocol. So yeah, so interesting time, but that's all from now. But if you want to know more, maybe I will do some short video, maybe not on TikTok, on how to demo of this thing. Okay, last
I have a question about TikTok and all this, like including like Facebook or YouTube short videos. Is that why the hell are they so loud?
I don't know.
I don't know. Siming, for your project, you should do your clicker thing, but voice. So when you say next slide, please.
Yeah.
That's the next slide. Yeah.
So next, like previous is.
So Raspi had an awesome channel, so check them out. A very good
Raspi. It's a raspy voice.
Stop
something like that.
Stop trying to take credits for Python.
Yeah, it is written Python. So, and also there's a satellite. Oh yeah, I forget last thing. So the service, that's what I'm showing is the server, quote unquote. I had a satellite running on my WSL. So the UI is the same, but what it does is, you know what? I'm going to show this quickly. I'm very excited about this one. Let me stop presenting on view. No, stop sharing. Streaming desktop. Okay, cool. I'm going to share. This time I'm going to share a tab. Share screen. Share a tab. Mobile base. Okay, it's a bit slow, but the UI is the same, but notice that speech to text, intent recognition, so all the heavy thing, speech to text, intent recognition, text, and dialogue management are actually all pushed to the server. So you can do that actually. So what you would do is the use case for this is you use a Raspberry Pi. In this case, it may be a Pi Zero, which may not be powerful. Then you just connect to MQTT, turn off whatever that you don't need. What you keep is the wake word because those things tend to run locally. Then you just push everything out to the server to do all the things, including dialogue management.
Well, at least if you use this, the anything you ask or you talk about with your family won't be shown directly on your reflected to your Google search or YouTube.
Correct. So yeah, this is the last thing. And if you go to the Awesome Raspberry, let me
Raspi.
Awesome Raspberry, you can also have. Okay. So you go to Awesome Raspberry. A lot of resources will show you that, right? The cool thing I want to show is actually somebody actually made a satellite based on ESP32. But it only works on several type. The one that I'm interested is actually the M5 Eco.
What satellite? What does it mean by satellite?
It's what you call the client, quote unquote client.
Okay.
Because the
I think it's a term they use in the community. Who would be speaking to the satellite?
It's a cool word because it's a smart microphone, same hardware, but it serves the master. So you can use ESP32 for it potentially. More commonly, you use it for on the Raspberry Pi. So yeah, that's about it. I'm done. So next week, I'm going to cover voice to JSON. Voice to JSON is more interesting. That one is more lightweight, quote unquote again, in a way that by default it doesn't run a suite of software in the background. You run each of those suite one at a time. So you do not run this as a server, you run this as a command line. And this is also cool in a way that, let's say, one thing I want to do with it, and more of that next week, is I want to use this with the engineers.
Can you use this code base to treat it like sort of a library? I don't know.
That's the thing.
Did you try?
Raspberry doesn't release this.
No, I mean for voice to JSON.
I did not manage to find a library to use. It's as if that.
No, I mean the client itself, the source code, whether the code base itself is organized as
completely into the source code. I didn't look at the source code on that level. They seem to just bundle everything as one command line application. That's a priority. But that's next week. But I find this one very promising and very interesting. All right, with that said, anything else you want to know? If not, we should say goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right, thanks for listening.
See you guys.
Look forward to the next week thing.
So this is actually part 3. There's a 3-part. Today is part 1. Next week is part 2.
Okay,
part 3, I will try to cover.
Or we start with 3, then we go back to 1.
Yeah. So with that said, goodbye. Thanks for hearing. I hope this is useful.
Bye. See you next week.
Yeah.